At the heart of any great cocktail is your liquor. And I'm going to teach you what you need to know about the 6 main types of liquor, like whiskey, tequila, and how they differ from a liqueur like Grand Marnier. So let's dive in to Liquor 101. Look at all the booze, okay? This is a ton of alcohol, but don't get overwhelmed because I'm gonna break all this down very simply for you so that you understand what we have here. Now we're gonna be teaching you how to make delicious drinks, but in order to do that, you need to know which alcohols to use and when and how to mix them together. Right off the bat, we're gonna be working with liquors and liqueurs. Yes, they are different. The 6 main liquors are vodka, rum, gin, tequila, whiskey, brandy. Now, what is a liquor? Ciroc and Kraken are examples of liquors. So to get a liquor, you start with a fermented beverage. A fermented beverage is one where sugars have been turned into alcohol. So beer, wine, cider, those are fermented beverages. So you distill the fermented beverage, and what distillation does is it removes the water and creates a more concentrated alcohol, a hard liquor, a spirit. That is what a liquor is. Now, what is a liqueur? Blue Curacao, Bailey's Irish Cream, these are examples of liqueurs. To get a liqueur, you begin with a liquor, and then you add in a sweetener. That sweetener is what makes it a liqueur. Now, sometimes it's flavored with herbs, spices, fruits, all kinds of stuff like that. But it must be sweetened in order to be a liqueur. Other than that, you just end up with a flavored liquor, okay? That sweetener is what turns a liquor into a liqueur. So now let's get into 6 different types of liquor. Mick Jagger once said, "There are no absolutes in life, only vodka." So what is vodka? Vodka is a neutral flavored clear spirit. It's tasteless, it's odorless. Matter of fact, that's how it was marketed to America, as being tasteless and odorless. So you could drink it on your lunch break without your boss knowing. I'm not even joking. This is how it was marketed to us. Vodka is typically made from grains or potatoes. But for instance, Ciroc is made from grapes, okay? And vodka begins its life clear, but sometimes colors are added, which is why we have this thing here, Blavod, which is a black vodka. Real great during Halloween. Some of the more popular vodka drinks that you guys know would be Bloody Marys, Moscow Mules, Kamikazes, Screwdrivers, Greyhounds. There are tons of vodka drinks. Here's why. Because it's so neutral in taste, it mixes well with anything. You could spike literally anything with vodka and make it work. So your first mixed drink or cocktail, grab your favorite soft drink, add a little bit of vodka to it, and you are good to go. You'll have an amazing drink that you love out of the gate by using vodka. So when stocking your bar, definitely have a bottle of vodka. And get the one that you can afford, because even in blind taste tests, experts struggle to tell the difference between a cheap vodka and an expensive vodka. You know how when you get a shot of cheap tequila, they give you the salt and the lime, and then you go through chugging and all this, and that's how you do tequila? No, that is how you do cheap tequila. Quality tequila, the high-grade stuff, is meant to be sipped. You don't need all this salt and lime. Okay, it's delicious and it's supposed to be nice and smooth. Now, some of the more popular tequila drinks that you guys would know would obviously be the margarita, the Paloma, tequila sunrise, even a Bloody Maria. That's a Bloody Mary where you lose the vodka, add in tequila. So what is a tequila? Tequila is made from blue agave. And in order to be called a tequila, it has to be produced in Mexico in one of the 5 tequila producing regions. If you make tequila the exact same way they do it in Mexico, but you cross the border, okay, you cannot call it tequila they will sue you. And yes, companies have tried and they have been sued. So let's get into some of the types of tequila. This right here is the most popular version that you guys, I'm sure, are familiar with, okay? This is the Jose Gold. This is a mixto. So it's not 100% blue agave, it's 51% blue agave, and the other 49% might be colorings and flavorings and all the other additives to get in there to give you this color and this taste, okay? These tend to be cheaper, obviously, and they're designed to be that way. So now let's get into the 100% blue agave category. This is where you have a lot more of the quality stuff, a lot more of the expensive stuff. So the first one would be the Silver or the Blanco, which is what we have here. And these are aged in clear cask or steel barrels for less than 60 days. That's why they have such a clear color. The next category would be the Reposado or rested, which is what De Leon here is. And these are aged in barrels for more than 60 days, but less than a year. So these have no colorings added to them. The color is pulled from the barrels that these are stored in, okay? And that's why they have that beautiful golden brown color. The next level would be the Aneo, and these are aged for more than a year, but less than 3 years. And typically they have this rich golden color because they've been aging for a long time. They tend to be darker in color. But this right here is a special Aneo. This one's still silver. So this was aged between 1 to 3 years, but it was probably done in a steel barrel or something where it didn't pull in a whole lot of that color, so it stayed clear. When it comes to buying tequila, the things to look for are color and age. The older types with darker caramel colors tend to be more robust and less versatile. So if you're picking out a bottle to bring to a party, a nice mid-range silver would be your safest bet. George Washington was such a rum lover that for his inauguration, he had a barrel of rum brought in from Barbados so that they could party. All right? Some of the most popular rum drinks that you guys are familiar with would be mojito, daiquiri, pina colada, dark and stormy. There are tons of fun rum drinks. I grew up in the Caribbean, so rum is one of my favorite categories. Now, most rum is made from molasses, okay? And they begin here as a nice clear liquid like this, like the Bacardi white rum or silver rum or light rum. They all the same thing, light, silver, white. But there are lots of different categories in rum because over here you have your spice rum. Bacardi has a nice smooth one. You have the Captain Morgan that's a bit more spicy and not as smooth as this. And they have a lot of herbs and spices in there that add in that spiciness. Then you have your dark rum category. And these are ultra flavorful and an acquired taste. Because tasting one of these for the first time, you go, oh my God. But they have to be, you could sip them. There are a lot of people sip these. But most of us, most people in bartending mix these with other things to create fun drinks, especially cool tropical drinks. A lot of times feature a layer of Myers or Kraken or something like that on top. Another fun category in rum is the high proof rum. So you have here Bacardi 151 and you have here Demerara 151. So what is that 151? That 151 is the proof, okay? And you divide the proof by 2 to get the alcohol percentage. So each of these is 75.5% alcohol. And we call them high proof because, you know, it's a higher alcohol content, which means the higher the alcohol content, the more likely it is to start a fire. So you could, you know, start flames and flaming drinks. That's why you see us use Bacardi 151 so much. No matter the base, the underlying flavor profile of rum is sweet. The sweetness makes it really common in cocktails, so definitely have it around when throwing a party or stocking your home bar. Age is less important, but like with tequila, the white or silver types tend to be more versatile to work with. Gin is the national drink of England, but that's not where it was created. You see, what happened was during the Dutch War of Independence, British soldiers noticed Dutch soldiers sipping on this before they went into battle. This actually had the nickname Dutch Courage, okay? And if you look at the label, it says right here, the grandfather of gin. What does that mean? So those British soldiers saw this, took it home, and reworked it in their own way to create the gin that we know and love today. So what is gin? Gin is created from distilling grains or malt. But in order to be gin, it has to have juniper berries. If there are no juniper berries, it ain't gin, okay? And people who make gin, they don't only add juniper berries. They add a lot of other botanicals, coriander, anise, citrus peels. So you get all these delicious botanicals in there. And it's just awesome from bottle to bottle because they're all slightly different. If you look at this one right here, Bombay Sapphire Far East, they're using Vietnamese black peppercorn and Thai lemongrass. I mean, they really go crazy in some of the gins out there today, and it is awesome. Some of the most popular gin drinks that I could think of right now would be Gin Fizz, Ramos Gin Fizz, Aviation, gin and tonic. That's super popular, okay? Is it basic? Yes, but it basically tastes good too. Gin is meant to be mixed as the botanicals, the herbs and spices come to life in cocktails and add complexity to the drink. This is why so many classic cocktails call for gin. In fact, there are more classic cocktails made with gin than with any other spirit. The word martini means gin. So when it comes to buying a gin, age doesn't really matter. It's more about the particular flavor of that gin that you like. Mark Twain once said, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough. Whiskey, it is a huge category, okay? And it's daunting at first, but we're gonna work through this and you're gonna understand. It's gonna be beautiful. Now, whiskey is made by distilling fermented grains. But what makes it different from vodka is that right after distillation, it is aged in wooden barrels, and that's how it gets its lovely color. But there's an exception here because this is a clear whiskey. They do exist, okay? So this was not aged in a wooden barrel to pull the color out. Just so you know. Now, how do you spell whiskey? Okay? Here's the rule. If your country has an E in the name, then you spell it with an E. For instance, America and Ireland spell whiskey with an E. Except Maker's Mark, which is American company. They make a bourbon, but they spell it without an E. There's an exception to every rule. Okay, and if your country has no E in the name, like Japan or Canada, then you spell it without an E. All right, that's the broad rule. Look for many exceptions. So let's get into the different types of whiskey. So this right here is Scotch. If you walked into a bar in Europe and said, hey, give me whiskey, because all this is whiskey, they'd most likely give you Scotch, all right? Now, Scotch is distilled from malted barley. And in order to be Scotch, this has to take place in Scotland. And it must be aged for a minimum of 3 years. And Scotch is often accompanied by an aging statement, like telling you how old it is. For instance, if you look at Johnny Walker, I know a lot of you skipped over this. It tells you right down here, aged for 12 years. And obviously, the longer it was aged, the more expensive it would be. The thing with Scotch is aged in a barrel, whereas wine is aged in a bottle. You get a bottle of wine, you stick it in the cupboard, 20 years and it's worth $1 million. Not in the cupboard, but you get my point. Scotch, all that has to take place in the barrel. Some of the popular drinks made with Scotch would be Rob Roy, Rusty Nail, Godfather, Blood and Sand. For the longest time, a lot of bartenders wouldn't try to make cocktails with Scotch. It's tricky. You have to really be skilled to do that. But today's mixologists, they work magic with Scotch. Jameson's is the most popular Irish whiskey in the world. In order to be an Irish whiskey, it has to be made on the island of Ireland. Can't be made in Timbuktu. No offense, Timbuktu. But if you do it the same way, using the same ingredients, you cannot call it an Irish whiskey. Irish whiskeys have to be barreled for a minimum of 3 years. And they gotta be bottled at least 40% alcohol, okay? Some very popular drinks that use Irish whiskey would be Irish coffee, that's a star. Green tea shots, pickleback shots, Irish whiskey sours, Irish mule, which is a twist on a Moscow mule. You replace the vodka with Irish whiskey, works just as well, delicious. This right here is American bourbon. Okay, now here are the rules for bourbon that's gonna be sold and consumed in United States of America. It must be at least 51% corn. After it's distilled, it gotta be aged in new charred oak barrels for a certain amount of time. Now notice when I said, this bourbon for the American market, because other countries can make bourbons according to their rules. However, they can't sell it in America. In order for it to be bourbon in America, it has to follow those rules. Some of the more popular bourbon drinks that you might know would be Brown Derby. Oh, that's a delicious one. Hot toddy, bourbon old fashioned, bourbon whiskey sours, delicious. And when you walk into a bar in America and you said, hey, give me a shot of whiskey, the bartender, he should ask, because whiskey is such a broad category, he'd give you a bourbon. Whereas in Europe, they'd give you scotch. In order to be rye, it must contain 51% rye when it's distilled, okay? And much like bourbon, it cannot be distilled to more than 80%. It's usually bottled at around 40%, and it has to spend time after distillation in a new oak charred barrel. The taste of rye, a lot of people find a little bit more peppery than bourbon. Popular drinks that contain rye would be a Sazerac, that's a classic, also a Vauquerie. That's also a classic. I probably pronounced it wrong because I got an accent, but just Google it. This right here is a miscellaneous category. You notice Jack Daniel's front and center, and some of you go, wait a minute, isn't Jack Daniel's a bourbon? Jack Daniel's is not a bourbon. This is a Tennessee whiskey made from a sour mash. Now, in trade deals, more often than not, Jack Daniel's is listed under bourbons, but it is not a bourbon, okay? This is uniquely Tennessee. Over here we have Crown Royal, which is a Canadian whiskey. And then in the back here, you have a Japanese whiskey. This is actually made from coffee grains, okay? And then you have a white whiskey. These do exist, okay? Because remember now, a lot of these whiskeys, some of them do have coloring added, but they pull their color from the barrels that they're stored in, okay? That's what gives them that brown look. Depending on the particular type of whiskey, common flavors can include smoky to robust, sweet to spicy. It's all over the board. Whiskey is usually seen in spirit-forward drinks or served straight. Since whiskey is such a broad category, when it comes to buying a bottle for your home bar or for a party, it's better to go with what you like and just convince your friends to try it. Brandy. Brandy is from a Dutch word meaning burnt wine, okay? And it's served in this glass, which is called a snifter. Now here's the cool thing about a snifter. If you lean it to the side and it fits perfectly, okay? That is the perfect serving for your snifter. And then you pick it up like this, and the heat from your hands helps to release some of that aroma, okay, as you sip. I don't exactly sip brandy, but it's good. Pretty potent too. So what is a brandy exactly? A brandy is made by distilling fermented fruit, okay? More often than not, that fermented fruit would be grapes, okay? So that's why it's called burnt wine. Now let's get into cognac. Cognac is a brandy, but it's from the Cognac region of France. So they're the only people in the world who are allowed to call their brandies cognacs, okay? Then over here, we have an Armagnac, which is from the Armagnac region of France. And they're the only people in the world who are allowed to call their brandies Armagnac. By the way, this bottle was nearly $100, okay? Like I said, brandy could be distilled from any fermented fruit. So this right here is an apple brandy. And you could have pear brandy, you could have mango brandy, whatever. I've never seen a mango brandy, but it is possible. Now, on the markings on the more expensive brandy bottles, you'll notice stuff like VS. What does that VS stand for? It says it means very special. Here on this Christian Brothers bottle, which is one of the cheapest brandies I've ever found, it means very smooth, which makes me ask many questions about this here said brandy. Okay. Then you sometimes see VSOP, and that stands for very superior old pale. And then you see XO, that's extra old, okay? When you see XO, dig in your wallet because it's going to be expensive. Matter of fact, Louis XIII, which is a cognac, very popular cognac amongst the rich and famous, or those who are trying to show off, I think that starts at about $2,000 a bottle, just to give you an idea. Some bars would sell it by the shot, and a shot of that would be, over $100, depending on the bar. Some of the more popular brandy drinks would be Brandy Alexander, Sidecar, Incredible Hulk. Yes, right. Okay, y'all going, wait, Incredible Hulk? Isn't that like Hennessy? So remember, cognacs are brandies. So if you've had Remy Martin, Cavassier, Hennessy, you've had a brandy. Because brandies are typically sipped, you don't see them in a ton of cocktails. So if you're new to the brandy world, start with a bottle of cognac, but be careful, they can get really expensive. Welcome to the world of liqueurs. Like we said, with liqueurs, okay, you take a liquor and then you add in a sweetener, okay? And oftentimes that sweetener is followed with a lot of different flavors and colors. So for instance, now you have strawberry. It's like a strawberry snap, strawberry pucker. Blue curacao, blue colorings added, and it's orange flavored. Okay, Midori, green colorings added, it's melon flavored. So there's a lot of fun stuff, sweet stuff in the liqueur category. One thing that confuses people about liqueurs is this. Okay, this says crème de cassis. That's crème de black currant or whatever. Okay, I don't speak French. Crème de banana. So when you hear crème, in French, crème means cream. But these are not creams. They just tend to be a little bit more syrupy, okay, than a lot of other liqueurs. Maybe not even a little bit more. But they carry the name crème, and then it tells you the flavor afterwards. De cassis, meaning black currant. De banana, meaning banana. See, I'm not that bad at French. Okay? And over here, you actually do have the creams, like Bailey's Irish Cream. This is actually a cream. Or Godiva Chocolate. This is actually a chocolate cream. Super cool. A lot of people don't think of Kahlua as being a liqueur, but it is, okay? There's a ton of sweetness and stuff going on inside here. The base of this is rum, actually, and then they come behind with the coffee sweetener and add that in. A lot of people look at liqueurs and go, oh man, I don't drink liqueurs. They're too weak. Really? Really? Really, my friend? Because let me introduce you to 99, okay? 99 is a liqueur, and this is 49.5% alcohol. This is ultra potent. We use this in jungle juices when we're trying to kill people, okay? Another one that really throws people is my friend Campari from the Amaro category. The word Amaro means bitter. So when you think of that, you're going, wait a minute, these are bitters, Sky. There's no way they could be liqueurs because liqueurs are sweet. Campari, okay, is a liqueur because it was sweetened and then somehow the way it's produced, it was bittered. Is that a verb? I was bittered. I don't know. Okay, it's a new word. Okay, just use it. It was made bitter. But Campari is a liqueur. So guys, now you know what all these bottles are and you understand the difference between a liquor and a liqueur. And just remember, many great cocktails use a combination of liquors and liqueurs. For instance, a margarita, the liquor is the tequila. The liqueur is triple sec, Cointreau, Grand Marnier. Okay? In an adios, a real party drink. The liquor, vodka, rum, gin, tequila. And then you come behind that with the liqueur, my favorite right here, blue curacao, to give you that nice blue with an orange flavor. So they're used in combination and you could have a ton of fun. So liquors are just as important as liqueurs. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise or have them see me. Stay tipsy.